Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and we've got a special Saturday episode of the New Knives of the Week feature, which normally features on Thursday. Next week we'll be back to our regular schedule, but in the meantime, let's take a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. All right, first thing to show you this week, we have our latest exclusive, and it is one of last year's best knives, updated with some new blade material. This is the Kizer Drop Bear, 3-inch blade, 20 CV blade steel, a very nice bump up from the 154 cm of the original, and only about $21 more than the original. This is going to come in right about that $140 mark for this knife. Really, really good value here. Great blade shape. It's a little bit distinctive, not a run-of-the-mill drop point, but it's still going to do all of the versatile drop point things you want it to do. High flat grind, thin enough steel, work for just about anything you need a 3-inch knife to do. And a really cool thing, full spine jimping essentially, all the way out to the start of the swedge there near the tip. Very, very cool. We've got aluminum handles. We've got a crossbar lock, Kizer's clutch lock, they call it, in fact, because on the inside of this, each side of the springs can be moved. There's 5 different positions on each side. So you can essentially tweak the strength of the spring to your liking. That said, I've always liked these very much out of the box. I don't even know what my personal one is set at because I've never felt the need to tweak it. It's very good. We've got ball bearings in the pivot rather than bronze washers, which most crossbar locks, of course, will use a bronze washer. Some now we're seeing with something like this. One of the few, though, at this point. And because a lot of folks have kind of compared this favorably to something like the Benchmade Bug Out, it does, however, have very different build quality or build structure to it. And in fact, I think it's kind of a cross between something like the Bug Out and something like the Wii Banter. As such, it only felt appropriate to go with classic colors for those two models, this nice blue color. The color looks really good and the aluminum feels great too. It's got a hint of matte texture to it, just a little bit so that you have a nice tactile feel to it. And then all of the black hardware really accents nicely. Deep carry clip, it can be reversed, which keeps the ambidextrous qualities to this knife because everything else is also perfectly symmetrical for left-handed users. It flips great. It feels phenomenal. It's a lot more stable in the hand than something like the Bug Out. If you don't like the feel of the plastic handles of that knife, Drop Bear has a nice, meaty gorilla grip thing going for it. Very stable, very nice, and very good value for this exclusive.
Hey Seth, when's this Drop Bear drop?
Monday, January 30th.
Very strange that David didn't mention that.
Next, we have the Buck 117 Brahma. They brought this back as a limited edition last year, and now they've released 2 versions as regular line items. This is the more expensive one. This is the Brahma Pro. Comes in about $160, made in the USA. We've got S35 VN blade steel, 4.5 inches of it. The non-pro versions come with 420 HC, but the S35, of course, is very nice. It's always nice to have a little bit extra. And you've got this nice tapered clip point profile here. Great for a smaller hunting knife if you don't want something like the full-size Buck 119 Special. Also good for bird and trout type of stuff if you don't need something as small as many bird and trout knives can be. Kind of sits in a good middle ground, but good for all that hunting stuff. General purpose camp knife. The hollow grind here keeps it nice and thin, so it's not quite what I think of as like a quote-unquote survival knife, but if you need to survive with it, it's gonna work for you, of course. Handles are green micarta, and the spacers in the guard and the butt cap actually are also micarta. You have a nice little bit of texture there. And this is a hidden tang knife, and it's a single piece of micarta. I can't see a seam anywhere, so you get a nice, comfortable handle due to the shape they give it as well, but no opportunities for, sharp bits where a seam might join a tang or anything like that. Very cool. Standard version comes in at about 70 or 80 bucks, I want to say. I think it's around 70. And that has a black synthetic handle, a black phenolic. No, not phenolic. like a black plastic, basically. Can't remember what exact material they use. But what I really like about this knife is the hand size here, or the handle size, fits me quite well, just. It's, as I like to say, I have slightly larger than average sized hands. I'm a size large or extra large glove, depending on what company we're talking about here. And I fit really well there. Or like I said, I fit there just enough. The standard version of this especially, maybe not the pro version depending on cost, but the standard version especially I think makes a really good option for like a first kid's fixed blade. If you want to spend less, you can certainly spend less. There's more options especially, but if you want to get the kids something nice, something to set them up, I really like this because, as you can tell by my hand size here, they're not going to outgrow it like they might a smaller knife. It's going to do all the stuff they need when they're the age they are now. And as they grow, they'll still be able to get use out of this probably for a lifetime. May not be as big or as beefy as some other options out there, but they might not want that anyway down the road. Really cool option for that, actually. And I do have some kind of personal preferences on that style of knife that this particular blade shape doesn't necessarily agree with, size or style. But I think for kids especially, the blade is certainly important, but I think the handle is more important because you want something that's going to be easy to control for some smaller hands. The trap, of course, is some people I think go too small, which consequently actually makes it harder to control for those smaller, less coordinated hands. But anyway, that's getting into a whole nother subject. I think this would make a great option. And it still comes with one of my favorite factory leather sheaths of all time. It is leather, as you can see, sturdy belt loop on the back. And the reason I like it is the way they handle the snap strap loop right here. It tucks around behind the knife, so it is very secure. Yes, you can still pop it open, but if you're kind of running or brushing through woods, if something were to snag on here, very unlikely it's gonna snag that strap open. So I really like that. And typically, they stay pretty well out of the way without having to futz with strap position. Really cool knife. But enough about that. I've talked about that a lot already, I think.
Yes, you did.
But it's really cool and worthy of note. They do a great job. You can find the same sheath on the 119s and such too. The other knife we have this week, new from Buck. We saw both of these in our SHOT Show video last week, but they are now in stock, and that is the relaunch of the Alpha series. This is the Buck Alpha Hunter. It is a slightly different shape than the original Alpha, as you can see, and we've got some upgraded materials on this one as well. Now, I actually made a mistake when I was talking about this knife in our SHOT Show roundup video that we posted a couple of days ago. There are two different handle versions of this. There is the kind of wood handled version, it's a stabilized wood laminate, and there's also this rich light handle material, which is a paper product, essentially. It's almost paper micarta-like. Both of them have S35 VN steel. For some reason in my head, I thought the wood handled ones came with 420 HC. They all come with S35 VN, so that's cool. About $200 for this knife, 3 5/8 of an inch long on the blade. Nice drop point, higher flat grind, not hollow grind here, and a little bit thicker on the blade without being too chunky. This one is definitely a hunter, but it skews a little more towards what I think of as a quote-unquote survival knife. You know, for whatever that is worth, there you go. But it handles really well. Lots of good positions going on. Decent camp food prep knife, if this length will work for you. In fact, I think this platform, if we're extended out to like a 5-inch blade, would be especially good for camp food prep. But the handles feel good. The rich light feels very good. There's a little bit of texture to it. You've got thumb scallops for that nice pinch point there. When you're getting in, get your index finger up on the spine of the blade real easily too. A little bit of a stretch to get out all the way to the tip, unless you have truly big old hands. Feels built really well. Full tang, nice and solid. And we have a sheath over here as well. It is also leather. Has more of a conventional style of strap, but it is kind of situated on the front side rather than the back. So it still has some of the same benefits if you're kind of moving through brush. I prefer the one maybe on the back side, but this is actually pretty good too. There you can see nice edges on the leather. Sheath itself made in the USA too. That's not always the case. In fact, I'm not sure if that's the case on the 117. Nope. The sheath on the 117 is also made in the USA. So that's a nice little touch too. So there you go. This version of the Alpha Hunter is in stock right now. The Alpha Scouts aren't in quite yet, but you can put your pre-orders in at the link below. And here's where I noticed that there's a big brown spot from the sheath that just kind of flaked off. Apologies. We'll get rid of that. If you are looking for a smaller USA-made premium steel knife, and you can't get your hands on the Buck Scout, Alpha Scout right now, check out the Reiff F3 EDC. It's got a 2.9-inch 3V blade with very comfortable G10 handles. This one has a coyote tan color. A little bit more expensive than the Bucks. This is about $245, and you can get it with a Kydex or a leather sheath. In fact, I have the Kydex sheath option over here. There it is. Comes with a Kydex loop on the back for your belt, and I believe, haven't checked yet, but will it fit a large tech lock? Yes, it will. So if you want to switch that out for something like this, or a T-clip, something like that, that'll work really well. But back to the knife. Small, stout. This is kind of a 3-inch quote-unquote survival knife. I know there are some places in the US where you can carry things bigger than 3 inches, but it's like if you're doing certain activities, it's allowed. If you want to avoid some of those things, or if you just need a nice backup knife, good option right here. Nice, solid feel in the hand. This would be great for doing long hours or long carving tasks where you're really pushing on the knife. The handle's gonna work great for stuff like that. And with the 3V, even at this smaller thickness compared to some of their bigger knives, it's gonna stand up to a lot of abuse if you really need to kind of hammer on it, abuse it in a quote-unquote survival situation. But really, the only downside I can see with this knife doesn't affect any one of you out here, but it affects us here while we're filming, because it doesn't want to stay still on the table, and that's why it's actually up like that. Same thing with this Buck, apparently. And I can't even stack that way. Let's try it this way. That feels a little better. Can you tell it's fixed blade day and I'm very happy?
Not at all.
One more fixed blade. I know I like to ramble on fixed blades, but one more for now and then we'll get into some more folders here. New Tanto profile of the Demko FREEREIGN is here. Apart from the blade shape, specs are the same as the drop point version. $150, you've got an AUS 10 blade, 3/16 of an inch thick, very, very sturdy. The Tanto has compound flat grinds going on, or two-stage, however you want to refer to it, with a very Western-style Tanto front tip, completely straight edge right there with the acute point, or actually that would be not very acute, but with the distinct point between the transition of the two sides. The tang itself is full length. It sticks out the back here. As you can see, you can scrape with that back end if you want. And actually, if you needed to scrape a fire steel, you could use the spine of this if you're using this in an outdoor scenario, which is probably more likely with the drop point version than the Tanto, but yeah, there you go. Tanto definitely leans into some more quote-unquote tactical vibes, but the handle does the same thing it does on the drop point. It shields you from potentially cold temperatures on the blade itself, or the tang itself. It'll also deal with some shock absorption, vibration absorption. Mentioned that the other day when I said those words, not electricity shock, more impact shock. Keep that in mind. Cool knife, but the coolest part about the FREEREIGN is actually not the knife itself, and it is the sheath. You're not gonna, most people anyway, aren't buying knives because the sheath is cool. They're buying it because the knife is cool. This is a cool knife, but the sheath itself takes the cake. I believe, actually, do they have a patent pending on this? Yes, they do. It says it right here. It's essentially a few parts. You can take it apart to clean it. One, that's one cool thing. But two, this is designed to protect your blade a little more. But this center section here is not a glass-filled nylon, which a lot of sheaths in this price range and lower often are. There's no glass fiber reinforcement at all in this material, and as such, there's no chance of those glass fibers impacting the edge of the knife when you go in and out, which, depending on the sheath, depending on the specific knife you're using, sometimes there's a chance you could dull the edge if you're not careful going in and out of the sheath. No chance of that here, but in order to still maintain the strength and longevity that the sheath needs, the rings or the perimeter is glass-filled nylon. The two sections there clamp the two sections of the center section together, which I think it's just a regular old nylon. I can't remember exactly, but it's not glass reinforced, importantly. Those clamp together. The retention is quite nice. And even if a sheath like that isn't going to dull your edge, it can sometimes scuff the sides of the blade. You're not going to see that to the same degree on this either. But it holds it in quite nicely. You've got a second retention strap there if you want it. You've got holes and slots on the side, so you can use pretty much any aftermarket attachment if you want to use something different. And it all comes apart for cleaning. Very, very cool right there. Tanto now available. All right, let's keep it in the Demko family here. This is actually a new brand, but it's an Andrew Demko design. This is the Ocaso Knives Solstice. I'm actually unfamiliar with the brand at all, but this is kind of an executive knife, gent's knife from Andrew Demko. We've got a 3.5-inch blade. The steel is S35 VN. Nice narrow profile. It's actually a straight clip point, as you can see here, and check out how wickedly narrow that tip itself is. A little bit thicker on the blade. This is, despite its narrow profile, it's not going to be a super efficient slicer. I think it's got a little bit of a wedge-like quality to it, but at least you're not going to have a huge blade behind it with that same kind of geometry to shove through. I really like what they've done, however, with the deep carry pocket clip. It is wrap around the tail, as you can see, and is screwed in from the opposite side. And what that does is it cleans up any potential void while still maintaining reversibility, because you can flip this around as well. That way, the thing there is nice and clean. They even included some branding there on the front rather than more billboarding on the blade. That's really cool. Nice detail there. Nice detail on the pivot there too. Check that out. Not sure. It probably says the name, doesn't it? Ocaso. It does. I just realized that. I was about to make like a Fifth Element joke thing here going on, but in fact, it is more clever than that. But there are carbon fiber versions of this knife, coated and uncoated blades. There's also titanium. Carbon fiber is about $210. Titanium is about $250 right now. Or sorry, no, I'm actually wrong about that. $230 for titanium. And for the all blacked out titanium, that's about $245. Action, we're dealing with a single liner lock here and ball bearings in the pivot. There is the closed position, so you can see how nice and narrow that is. And when you're ready to fire, hit that flipper tab and bang, good to go. Keep up with some classy looking folders. We've got a slip joint here. This is the Viper Twin. Very cool knife. It kind of channels, in my mind anyway, what was cool about their lockback knife, the Turn, into a smaller slip joint profile. This one right here has gold dark matter fat carbon scales, and the price is about $196. Low end price on these comes in, I want to say about $170, depending on which version you get. Let me check here real quick, make sure there's not a less expensive one. Yeah, about $170 right now for a micarta handled version, or a little bit more for some of the fancier versions. The bolsters are integral titanium, as you can see there. It's a single piece with the liner there, and then you've got the inlays on top. Really cool clip point shape, very kind of custom buoy-esque. Just over 3 inches with M390 and a full flat grind. Very, very efficient thing. Crown spine, both before and in front of the straight clip, going all the way through the back spacer or the leaf spring, back spring, whatever you want to call it, that goes around. Half stop, nice feeling blade action all the way through. Feels good in the hand and just looks super, super nice. Thomas, actually, was there any like leather pocket slipper or anything in
Might have been.
the box of this one? Might have been. Well, let's see. I don't know if there was or not. Nope, just traditional slip joint carry. Throw it into your pocket. If you did want something though, make sure to check out those MKM magnetic pocket slips. This should work really well with one of those. Next up, speaking of classic slip joint carries, we have another modern slip joint with no pocket clip and no pockets. No, actually, this does have a pocket slip usually. The Jack Wolf Low Drag Jack, which actually came out last week while we were at SHOT Show, or it might have been right before actually. Days all blended together at this point.
Across those time zones, and it was just like a wormhole.
Pretty much. But there are a few left actually. And here you go. This is kind of a teardrop shaped handle with, in my mind, a kind of exaggerated spear point Barlow spear point shape going on. $275 for this black micarta version. We've got some with some fancier inlays, including some dark matter stuff, I think, fat carbon, I think, for about $300 right now. Blade itself is 3 inches long. It's S90V on this one. Really, really high edge retention right there. And full height hollow grind on it as well, which is always cool to see, but it's even cooler to see on something like this with such a kind of bulbous, may have negative connotations, but a flaring blade profile. The handle itself, the spine itself doesn't really get any thinner. It looks like it might because of the swedge there, but to maintain that hollow, hitting the top of that edge or the top of that spine and the same thickness right behind the edge across such a wide range here is masterfully done. Very, very cool. Feels good in the hand. It's about I can fit all 4 of my fingers on there, no problem. Get a nice solid grip on this blade. And when I'm ready to put it away, really, really nice sounding walk and talk there. Very, very good. Nice and flush, crisp half stop, adjustability thanks to the Torx construction right there. And it comes with their packaging, which I don't always mention everyone's packaging, but theirs is always fun. Comes with a collectible pog, and in there, as you can see, nice
cloth.
Thank you. And a leather pocket slip right there. I still haven't caught up on sleep from SHOT Show. Maybe this weekend, while you folks are watching this, I might be actually taking a nap. I hope that's the case, actually. That's cool stuff. Another non-locking knife. This is funny, actually. This is probably as far into a video as we've ever gotten and have only showed 2 kind of locking folders at this point. Actually, in fact, there's only 1 more locking folder in this whole video. Oh my goodness.
Not my fault.
Not even intentional. But here we go. Some mid-tech Serge Panchenko beans. This is the cleaver blade shape. It's Nitro V on the steel. About a 2-inch blade. Hollow ground, I believe. No, wait, actually, maybe not. Is that flat? No, it's hollow ground. Sorry, had a moment of crisis of conscience right there. Hollow ground blade, nice cleaver shape. $500 for this one. It's definitely a pricey piece, but you get this really cool embellishment on the front. It is sterling silver, and our website says lobster, but that looks a lot more like some kind of shrimp to me.
It's a noodle lobster.
Noodle lobster?
Yeah. They really like ramen.
That didn't help clear up the picture for me.
It was not my intention.
Oh, good. Well, then there you go. Strange. It looks cool when you call it a lobster or something else, but I'm pretty sure it's a shrimp. Really nice detail there. On the back, as you can see, this is a detent joint, so it is non-locking as well. Bean there on the pocket clip. This is a good knife in that little watch pocket on your jeans though as well. And this can be kind of flicked open. And I was about to say I'm just not really good at it. That's the first time I've actually succeeded in doing that.
He performs well under pressure.
Wish that were the case. So there you go. You can actually do that flick if you want, which is good, because even though it has a thumb cutout, as you can see, it's completely buried when closed up, so you can't actually get to that. But it does make a nice point to add a little extra traction for a pinch grip if you're using this, to use the tip like so. There you go. We have a few different versions of this, not just the lobster shrimpy lobster thing, crustacean eye, it's just front cover. Check them all out at the link below while supplies last. These aren't, we don't have an unlimited number of these, so don't wait around if you're interested in one. All right, now we have a pocket fixed blade. It is the Suprlativ Hella pocket fixed blade. 2.07 inch M390 blade, modified sheep's foot with the black PVD coating. There is also a satin version that comes with a red fat carbon. This one has just a non-red carbon. It's not like a twill carbon fiber. There's actually, it looks like layered, like G10 might be. And as such, especially against the black, I find this very, very striking indeed. Very nice. Technically, a 4-scale handle set right here. It's about a 3-finger grip in the hand, nice and slim, so you'll be able to use this as a very deft little utility knife. Not a big, gorilla grippy, pushy thing. This is more about precision with a nice strong blade to back that up. Sheath is leather. It does come with a pocket clip, and it nestles in there quite nicely. Very cool package indeed, and easy enough to pull out, even if you don't add like a fob or lanyard right here. Kind of want to pinch, the way I've found it works well, pinch with your index and thumb, kind of push off with another finger. Works better if it's actually in your pocket. And then you do have to adjust your grip and finish the draw. Very, very cool piece. About $184 for this knife. The fit and finish is all there, right where you want it to be. And it's just a really cool looking design. Now we have a pocket pry bar. Maverick Customs sends us a lot of good pocket pry bars of his, various sizes, various finishes. All of them tend to be one-offs actually when they hit our site, and I don't often talk about them, so I wanted to take that chance right now. This is a 3.5-inch pry bar with bottle opener and a pocket clip. Price is $110, and as you can see, it's made from S45 VN steel. Not that I think it needs to be, but this is probably extra material when he's cutting out his other shapes, and you figured might as well do something with it. There you go. There's even a Magna Cut pry bar in the selection, at least on the day we're filming this. So,
You know it'll be tough.
there you go. But they're all really cool. You can get them with different finishes, as mentioned. They carry nice and easily. There's part of me that really wishes I had this on the plane last week when we went to SHOT Show, because even though I had some, quote unquote TSA friendly tools, EDC items with me, I miss having the pocket knife right there, having something clipped right there. It's such an ingrained thing that you feel like something's missing. So definitely fill the slot right there. Plus you get a little functionality out of it too. So really cool. Check out our whole selection of these right now. All right, now we have several, speaking of one-offs, the Heibel Invictus Balisong. Several of these in stock right now. This one is literally number 100. 4 3/4-inch blade. It's RWL 34 steel with this blackened stonewash finish and gold titanium handles. Channel construction, as you can see right there. So each handle is a single robust piece. The pivots themselves swing really nicely. And I'm not a flipper, but I can still feel that ultimate smoothness going on right there. Very, very nice. Latchless construction, so nothing there to get in the way of your tricks if that's what you're buying this for. And they just look awesome. Different colors, different blade finishes available right now, ranging up to about $650. Actually, they're all about $650. For some reason, I had a different price in my mind when I started this video. $650 for these knives. Next up, we have the Viper Rhino 1. New versions of this knife. Beast. $211 for this. You've got an LMAX blade, 4 1/4 inches long, compound grinds, and this is one of those, well, we'll call it a sheep's foot. Let's just be honest. It's like a harpoon-tipped sheep's foot almost, if you want to count this shape of the spine into things. Compound grinds, flat and a more robust flat near the tip. Very girthy handle, very suggestive holding grip suggestion here due to the 2 aggressive finger guards right here. And if your hands fit well in that, as mine do, it's gonna feel pretty good. Really feels like you could bruise some things carrying or pushing this knife through a job. The pocket clip is a little on the small side, not a ton of clearance right there. As you can see it wrapping around the top. I kind of wish they had a belt sheath for this, given its size, because it is impressive. I didn't do it with vigor there, but you can flick the blade out, even though it is a lock back. And it has some of those nice Italian touches too along that spine. The back spring does feature a crowned treatment. Words, man.
Words.
And a crowned spine up here as well. Then flattened spine on the leading tip of the spine of the sheep's footy thing. Words, sorry. But a lot of grip and a lot of power behind this. There are some other versions that can be had for less. LMAX blade with micarta handles, about $181 as well. Next up, we have a Bastinelli Creations Ligament. This is actually a Fred Perrin design, as you can see right there. And these come in about $280, and these are also made in Italy by Fox for Bastinelli Creations. Really wicked looking shape right here. It's not a traditional karambit in that it's got a ring at the back, but you essentially have either an index finger ring if you're going to use this like a forward claw, or a pinky ring if you're going to hold it in a reverse grip instead. The blade itself is about 3 inches long. That must be from tip to scale here. Good, more than an inch is taken up by the thumb hole, or the thumb hole, the finger hole right there. Sharpened edge, yeah, as I suspected, about 2 inches long. Flat grind, very wicked point, not too thick. This thing is just... Does that make sense?
Visually.
A lot of efficiency, I think, built in to this wicked little shape. I really like what they've done on the handles here. We've seen this a little bit from some of their other designs as well. 2 pieces of micarta, but it completely envelops the tang. So yeah, it's a full tang design, but it's not quite a full tang design at the same time because it is technically covered up, but only just a little bit. The tang is right there around the whole rest of the inside of this handle. But it feels really good. If you're gonna use it for daily utility stuff and you wanted a hawkbill, it would work pretty well. It's certainly gonna carry nice and easily, nice and flat, especially thanks to this particular sheath they've given it. Red on one side, there may be a functional reason for that. I'm not aware of what that is if it's the case, but it looks cool. And you've got an ulti clip on the front here. So you can set it up for inside the waistband carry or pocket carry very easily if you wanted to, and plenty of rivets there if you wanted to neck carry it as well. And last but not least, we have one more fixed blade, the Dervish Knives Prima. This is a 3.5-inch nitro V blade for about $360, and it is a thicker blade, as you can see here. Definitely a bit more of a bruiser. The handle is a little bit interesting. It's not quite perfect for my hand size. I can get a gorilla grip on this behind the choil right there, but my pinky is kind of right on the beak right here. And if I'm going to choke back and use that upsweep as kind of a control point, with the thickness and kind of beefiness of this blade, it doesn't quite feel quite right. If I wanted to get more fine control, that's where I would choke up on the choil right there, and you definitely get it in that sort of situation. And if I'm doing a big hefty gorilla grip, I don't want to be doing that right behind the edge in that choil either, so I am going to be choked back. Your hand size is going to be different than my hand size, of course. That's definitely just a peculiarity for my mitts in particular. Again, I talked about my hand size, slightly larger than average. I wish I could be a little more specific, a little more helpful on that front, but there you go. Actually, I probably could take a measurement of this area. We'll find out and put it up right here. But man, this thing is built solidly. This is a wedge of steel that doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Nitro V can be nice and tough as well, so you've got a good material behind it, and of course it's nice and stainless too. Yeah, man, super, super solid. Blue and black camo carbon scales on this, and this is about $360. You can get a standard G10 version for about $335, or a scaleless version for about $295. So pick your poison along the kind of steps of the lineup right there. As for the sheath, it is Kydex. Here it is. It comes with a belt clip with a hook retention point there at the bottom to keep it from slipping out too easily. And again, I haven't checked this yet either, but let's see if it fits a large tech lock. Help if I held the right side up to it. Yeah, large tech lock will work on there perfectly well too. So if you wanted the security of that kind of clipping mechanism, that is also an option for you. But out of the box, comes with this very nice clip ready to go. All right, that's all we have for this Saturday. Thanks for sticking around with us for all the SHOT Show coverage, and as it continued into this week, it kind of pushed our schedule forward. Didn't anticipate that happening, but all is well. Next week we should be back to our regular schedule. However, every Thursday we've got our new Knives of the Week episodes, and Saturdays, of course, we have our FAQ, and we have something usually in the first half of the week that we like to get a little creative with. So Keep sticking around for that. Let me know what you thought of the knives, and to get your hands on any of them, check out the links in the description to take you to KnifeCenter.com. And of course, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're buying one of these knives, man, it's nice to get some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.